TXT, can't stop. Let's talk about it. How y'all doing? Welcome to Let's Talk About It, Music Reviews, Season 11. How y'all doing? Welcome to the show. Hey guys, let me tell y'all something. We are getting close to, I'd probably say, we're getting closer to the end, of this season, which is kind of crazy to say. This has been the first, year-long season I've ever done. But anyways, I just wanted to say that, we're not even close to being done with this season. But I'm just saying, we're on that quarter four. We're on that quarter four. I'll just say that, which is pretty cool. Now, guys, I haven't reviewed TXT in quite a while. I mean, the last TXT review I did was probably, guys, it was probably like 2023. I will just be real. It has been a long time. I mean, I did see TXT was dropping some music, but I just, got occupied with other stuff, Sometimes, guys, look, there's only 7 days in the week, all right? There's only 7 reviews I can, realistically fit in. So, going into this, I haven't reviewed TXT in a while, but they got a new song called Can't Stop, and I said, you know what? There's nothing really else to be talking about this week for music-wise. Let's just do some K-pop, We did some K-pop with Jisoo, but I guess it was like a American, like, K-pop coming together song. I don't know. Honestly, I don't even know. One Direction in K-pop, I guess, coming together. This is more of, what I typically review on this show. Alright, TXT, Can't Stop, let's talk about it. Starting off with the instrumental. I'd say this instrumental is actually pretty fun. The only thing I would say about this instrumental is the drums. I wish those drums were a little bit more pronounced on this song, but I really like the funky kind of synthy 808s that are kind of in this song. I like how they have their own little vibe to them, like how they have these like little like moments where you just hear the t-t-t-t, and you just hear that bass just go absolutely insane, which is pretty fire. I like how the bass has that, and I do like the guitar. I think this is a nice, it does remind me of, like, some, like, Disney-type song, though. But if you like, that Disney-type old sound, I mean, it's definitely got that kind of guitar. And I'd say the guitar is actually pretty good. Do I wish there were some guitar switch-ups, to make it a little bit more, unique? I mean, of course, I would like a lot more off of K-pop songs. And that's what I usually expect from K-pop songs. I'm expecting, all the switch-ups, and, this song barely has any switch-ups, which is pretty surprising with the instrumental-wise, which I was pretty surprised by. Guitar is pretty simple, but I think it gets the job done. I think it gets the job done. I will say, though, I just wish the drums were a little bit better on here. But I like the guitar, I like the bass, I like the overall vibe of this song. It's kind of got a 2000s kind of Disney slash, having that classic 2010 kind of pop feel kind of, mixed in there, which is pretty cool. So I do like that sound. Sounds nice. Now let's move on now, and let's get into the song, because, starting off with the verses, with verse 1, I'd say verse 1 vocals were definitely on point. I like how the vocals sound. They sound absolutely fire. I like the little flow, the flow switches of these vocals that happen. I think that just, gives really good entertaining value when you're listening to the song. Just keeps you want to keep listening and listening and listening. I think it's definitely got that. My only problem with this song is that I wish there was a little bit more, flow switches. That's my only thing. I wish there was more flow switches. We get a lot of vocal switch-ups. There's a lot of different... But, I wish there was a little bit more on the flow side. I think that's what's definitely missing in this song. So I definitely think that's needed. And also the fact, too, guys, I wish there was just more to this instrumental and more to this hook. Because we're going to talk about the hook. But there is some deeper vocal switches. When the different members come different, they come singing on here. You get some deeper vocals, which sound pretty nice, pretty good. I mean, nothing bad here in my opinion. I think sometimes, I get a little annoyed with the, the rap and singing that these K-pop songs typically have on them. I just kind of go, can you please, switch it up? Do I need you rapping and then, you're going to sing your ass off at the end? I mean, not really, because K-pop rapping, even if it's decent, even if it's okay at best, will always be K-pop rapping, which is entirely generic, which is entirely ass, in my opinion. I mean, no matter how you no matter how you serve the shit cake of K-pop rapping, no matter if you put whipped cream or you put cherries on top, it's still going to be shit. So no matter how much you clean this shit up, it's still going to be that thing. So that'd be the only thing I'd say about K-pop rapping. I'm glad it's barely on here. I'm glad we quickly switched back to the singing. But there is moments of that K-pop rapping which, you know, you either have to really do it good or it's just going to sound like this. Generic, boring, whatever. So that's what I'll definitely say about that. And then let's get into this hook. I'd say this hook is one of the more generic hooks I've heard from K-pop songs. I mean, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to be expecting, I guess. But you know, what I am expecting is a little bit more. I mean, this could get stuck in your head for sure, the Can't Stop hook. I think it could. But it's one of those things where I think it just kind of forces itself to get stuck in your head because you're kind of just repeating, you know, the same phrase over and over and over again. And that beat stays the exact same throughout the whole entire song. From the verses to the hook, the beat stays the goddamn same. So maybe if the beat had a little bit more to it, and it wasn't just, you know, a couple of elements, and these elements are going to kind of be the whole entire goddamn song, maybe the hook would be a lot better. But I feel like the hook is just generic in my opinion. I feel like it just gets the job done. It feels like we walked in the studio and we said, yeah, let's make a pop hook. You know, let's go on, you know, Chat GPT and let's look up how do we make a pop hook. And this is what you get. You know, this is what you get right here. I'll just be real. So that'd be my only thing about this hook. But overall, when we talk about this song, guys, TXT Can't Stop, I would say this is pretty decent. Gets the job done. You know, I do like the verses. I think the verses are a good standout. I wish there was a bridge, though. You know, there was a setup for a bridge, and the bridge didn't even happen. I was like, what the fuck? You know, that's my only thing about that. But I'd say that, you know, this is a decent song, and I'd say if you're looking for a new K-pop song to listen to, I mean, this one's not too bad. You know, it's a lot better than, you know, a lot of the other newer shit that's out. But, I mean, look, when you got Twice, go to Twice. That's just what I'll say. Go to Twice if you want to listen, you know, this new K-pop. Anyways, guys, TXT Can't Stop. I'm going to give this track I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10, guys. What y'all think about it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? I don't know. Let me know. Thank you so much for listening, guys. If you're on YouTube, Spotify, Pandora, wherever you get your podcast at, make sure you follow, turn on notifications, guys. We're dropping new content every single day. Sorry for my allergies. All right. Look, I'm fighting through it. I'm fighting through these goddamn allergies, but, you know, they're still in my goddamn voice. You know, I'm working on that. But, yeah, guys, I'll see y'all later. Have a good one. Bye.